Okay. I want to also now touch on, because I know I want to circle back to that idea of spirituality and psychosis, because I think that's a fascinating topic. Like especially when we're talking about differences, how we look at things in the West and the East.
Yeah.
So like, I think in the West, when we approach spirituality is from a very like technical point of view, you have less of a openness to the ideas that are beyond, like, on the edge of it. Obviously, Buddhism wasn't formulated here. We have our own kind of like way of looking at religion, and so we're more comfortable with that. But what is it like in the East? Like, obviously, I'm not from there, but from your understanding, how do the East approach spirituality and all these things, and even the ideal psychosis? How do they approach it differently from the West?
I mean, I think like the East is obviously like Asia is like huge, right? And it's like so different compared like in terms of like every country is very different. Like you have like Hinduism, which is like a huge, very old like religion. Then you have Buddhism, and in Japan you have Shintoism, and then I don't know, there's other ones probably. But yeah, so I don't know that much about Hinduism because I didn't grow up with that. So I could only talk about Buddhism really, because that's kind of like, but I still don't know everything about it. But what I find interesting with Buddhism is that it doesn't focus too much on the afterlife. It focuses more on your life now, like on the present. And basically focuses more on how to be happy. I mean, a lot of it is about how to find spiritual awakening. But a lot of it is, well, I would say it's more like philosophies really on like how to live life. And it's very similar to like Stoicism. And it's just about, you should be detached from things, don't get personal hands, and being present in the moment, being mindful. Compassion is a huge thing as well. Yeah, sorry, what was it?
Is it a religion?
Yeah, it's a religion.
In what way is it a
We
religion?
have like temples and stuff.
Oh, okay. So it's practiced as a daily thing. It's not like, but it's not top down. You know how religion in the
Well,
West.
they do have like monks and, people like that. Like they have different levels. I don't really know. That's what I know too much about Buddhism. I know there's like different levels. Like you have to go through like a whole thing if you want to become like on the higher like levels and stuff. And then if you're like monk, probably you'd be vegetarian. But yeah, I mean, I know more about the practices of like meditation and the philosophies behind it. There's a lot more regarding the religion itself that I don't know too much about, so I don't want to say like anything
wrong. No, I understand.
Yeah.
So I remember in that conversation you mentioned the TED Talk that.
Oh yeah.
So talk to me about that TED Talk where they found the difference between like how the East and the West.
So I wouldn't really say East because like it's more like the tribes.
Okay.
And it wasn't just in the East. I think it was also in South America.
That's true. In Africa, sure,
yeah. Yeah, probably in Africa as well. So I wouldn't say it's an Eastern thing. I think it's more like a tribe thing. Because I think like countries in the East, they don't do that. Like, but anyway, yeah. So what I was showing you about the TED Talk is that tribes have like shamans a lot of the time, and shamans are basically like healers, and they kind of have this connection to the spiritual world. And this researcher, he went to study them and noticed that these shamans undergo like a psychosis. And that's kind of how they find out who becomes a shaman, is like by seeing who gets a psychosis. And then once they see, okay, this person has this like gift of becoming a shaman, so they go through an initiation phase. And a lot of initiations in those tribes are about, so they include like not sleeping for multiple nights or one night, but it's like a lack of sleep, because that's what kind of triggers the psychosis more. They would do like maybe some like dances, some movements that kind of like bring the energy out like in your body, that probably like kind of moves your energy. And yeah, and then they go through a psychosis, but they have a guide, so like someone who's already a shaman who like guides them through it. And then they kind of go through it, and they do like different tests as well. I mean, from what I've read, but some of them would have to do like certain tests of like walking on, like hot coal or do things like that. So just to show that they actually have made it through, and then they basically become a shaman, and they would be like, they would do healing for the community, or I don't know, they would probably maybe do things with like ancestors, things like that. And I showed you that because it was just a way to show that different cultures treat psychosis in different ways, I guess, and interpret it in different ways. So in those cultures, it's almost like a gift to get that. Whereas then, like, when let's say modern society, not only the West, in modern society, people see it as like something bad and like possessed, and you have to stop it as soon as possible. But I think that's also because they don't understand it. So they're scared of it. So when you're scared of something, you just want to like
Stop it.
And you don't want to understand it because you're scared of it, right? But I feel like those tribes, they are, to be honest, more connected to nature and to spirituality, and I think that's why they, I think, have a better way of dealing with it. I mean, I would love to like go see some of those tribes and understand more about it because I find it really fascinating. Like maybe do my own shaman.
So you walking in hot colors?
Yeah,
Like no, that's not for me.
well, maybe I'll be mentally strong enough to do it.
Yeah, that's true. But you based on living assertion. I think that's so interesting, like the differences, because I was speaking to a friend about this actually, and we was talking about how he thinks it's interesting how in the West, when you're doing it, don't understand something, it's just straight up like block, block, block. They try to like figure out, instead of trying to like open it up and like just, but he mentioned modern societies, right?
Yeah, modern society.
They try to like stop it from happening rather than letting it like, but like obviously in those trials. And I think it says something about how our evolution has gone, where the more we get more involved, we build these massive skyscrapers, the more we retreat from the world that was made us.
So the connection to nature is kind of lost, basically.
Yeah,
and I think nature is, for me, like kind of God. It's kind of like nature made us,
God, speak more about that. Nature, the idea that nature is God. How does that relate to the spirituality stuff there?
Well, I guess that's another thing, right? I feel like some people get scared of the word God, or they like, oh, you believe in God, okay, so you're like, you're like naive, or you're like brainwashed by religion. No, like I have my own idea of God, and well, for me, like it's the same thing as I said before with spirituality. It's just like the energy of the universe, and I think we have to respect that, and we have to respect the universe and nature, because that's where we come from. It's like our mother, right? Like Mother Nature, and I think we don't really respect it much these days, like when you look at global warming, when you look at like what we're doing with nature, like for sure, like there's still like people trying to plant trees and things like that. But I think on a global scale, the amount of pollution, the amount of littering, the amount of like pollution in the oceans, like it's heartbreaking. Like it really is. And I think that's what I mean when we lose our connection to nature. It's like we lose the respect that we should have for our ancestors and for where we come from. And I think that's probably what breaks that connection to the spirituality and the divine, and that's why we don't understand that part of us anymore, because we've lost it.
I completely agree. I think there's a move towards that disconnect. There's rationality becomes crowns everything. This world, this new world, is like it worships rationality, it worships these ideas of like production and industrialization, and we just try to build more and more and more. But we take so much from the environment that we have to a point now where we're kind of like looking around, being like, whoa, like we actually made like damage that maybe isn't with.
Well, that's what I mean. Where I feel like people people or society, I don't know, it's almost like we've lost this part of ourselves that it should be just here to love one another and be selfless and kind to another. And a lot is just about making money and invent for yourself. And that's like a more selfish approach, right? And I think that's where we lose our connection to each other, also to nature and also to God.
I mean, I often think about this, and this might be woohoo, religious, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I often think about it. There's a connection that we have to the higher realm, I believe, is a connection to God. And then we got up another connection, which is to our flesh, to the human body, which is like, animalistic, and it has like desires, it has self-preservation, it wants to like, evolution, like all these things, I do believe there's different levels of analysis when it comes to these different things. So like religion has a different place to spirituality, and that has a different place to science, because what religion does for us in our connection to the higher realm is different from what science does to us in our understanding of our environment, but like we're trying to merge the two, and then we hear that this doesn't work for this, so this must be wrong. And it's like, I think that kind of, I think that's been an ongoing battle in the mind of the species for so long, that we've kind of modeled the world so much we didn't even understand the difference anymore. I think it shows in how we treat each other, because we've no, there's another, it's another question I have for you, is like the understanding of the other, right? Whenever I go through a spiritual awakening, I often feel like, and I think it's definitely a thing where, because I'm mostly connected to peace. I kind of just finding peace and finding comfortability with my environment. It's like once I understand my role in the wider pattern, let's say, I become more like calmer. My emotions are more like, stiller. I think, yeah, definitely, like, but in that moment, I can understand that I am one with the other. I am one with you. I'm one of the person who's walking in the street, because we both come from the same source. It's just they're just built from different perspectives, So, question I have for you is, what is that? What is that like? There's that feeling of like feeling that there is no other, and that we're all connected from the same source. How is that like? What does that play in your life?
And I mean, that is not even like a faith thing, right? That is literally like science. Like we know that we all come from the same source. I mean, we're all from the same universe. Like obviously all come from the same source. Like we used to all be just stardust, right? So that's not even like a crazy belief to have, but we know it's actually true. But it's like people forget that, I think.
Why? Why do you think we forget that?